Hello and welcome to Maintaining Project Momentum Through Sustainability. We hope this webinar will help support project directors or individuals who are responsible for managing an entire AmeriCorps VISTA project, specifically who are in their first year of their VISTA project. So anyone's welcome to join the session, but the session is aimed at VISTA project directors in the first year of their VISTA project. And regardless of your role within your VISTA project, we are glad to have you. I'm Eric Powell, an AmeriCorps training specialist with the VISTA program based at AmeriCorps headquarters in Washington, D.C. I'm a proud AmeriCorps alum, previously having served as a member and leader with the VISTA program, and I'm very happy to be with you today. I'll be your host as well as the primary presenter, and I'm thrilled to be joined by our guest speaker, Beth Boehm. Beth has the privilege to work at Connecticut Food Share, and she wears two hats, like I'm sure many of us. She's a network relations representative, managing the relationships between the food bank and partner programs as they work toward creating a food secure state. She is also the VISTA project manager for soon to be 6 VISTA members. Beth is also a proud AmeriCorps alum, having served as a member with the VISTA program at Connecticut Food Share in 2021. Beth, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Eric. I'm excited to join you today. We all want the important work of our VISTA projects to carry forward when members leave at the end of their service or when the project's 3-year comes to an end. I look forward to sharing some ideas and plans you can put into place no matter where you are in your project lifestyle to sustain all the great work accomplished.
And speaking of great ideas to put in place, today we're going to cover important points about project sustainability. We'll first explain sustainability and its importance in the VISTA context. Then we'll discuss actions that you can take in the first year of your VISTA project to plan for project sustainability throughout the 3-year project lifecycle. And then we'll provide specific project sustainability examples in practice during the first year of a VISTA project. And at the end of today's session, we'll answer as many questions as we can. To begin, let's answer the question, what is sustainability in the context of AmeriCorps and the VISTA program, and why are we working to implement sustainable solutions? Well, sustainability is really embedded within the VISTA program mission and its key principles. The mission of the VISTA program is to strengthen organizations that alleviate poverty through the mobilization of volunteers and resources. Sustainability, then, is what enables this mission. You as the project director have the primary role in determining which activities at your VISTA project should be sustained. Project sustainment is most often successful because you are helping to mobilize volunteers and resources, and your VISTA members are likely mobilizing community volunteers and developing resources. Your project stakeholders probably include people such as members, leaders, supervisors, volunteers, community members, board members, etc. And you really want to carefully and actively consider how to engage them in helping your work be sustained in general, and particularly as your VISTA member service terms wind down. Sustainability is also tightly connected to VISTA's 4 key principles. Each VISTA project aims to end poverty permanently and keep its efforts going to sustaining important work. Sponsors can best incorporate sustainability by empowering and engaging community residents in the work right from the start. VISTA projects also focus on building the capacity of the organization to do more with what it has, acquire more resources, increase and expand the skills of stakeholders, and more. And sustainability plays a major role in the continuity of those actions and systems and all the processes that go along with it long after the VISTA project ends. And last but certainly not least, members, leaders, supervisors, and sponsors all focus on creating solutions that last through processes, systems, and resources. Sustainability here focuses on those key tasks that need to maintain in place for the long haul. Planning for and implementing sustainability practices in your VISTA project has many benefits to you, your project, and the project stakeholders. Sustainability, as we know, does not happen on its own. It would be great if it did, but it does require work. because you must develop and regularly utilize and evaluate a plan for sustainability and success. You can easily start this by simply documenting processes and procedures. For example, how to use certain systems or databases. You also want to make sure that you note where to store and how to access important files so that people can find the most up-to-date information and continue using it. This benefits you as the director because you have stakeholders helping you build up the project, and you have a foundation from which you can build. As you can see in the middle picture on the screen, moving lots of boxes and supplies is not necessarily a quick task. You know the deadline to get them delivered, so you work backwards so that the team has sufficient time to load and organize the boxes one at a time. Small steps achieve great things. Planning for sustainability is similar. You need to see the project's big picture goals and objectives while you work backwards from the VISTA project end date and, of course, your member service end date. You then factor in sufficient time and specific action steps for regularly building in sustainability measures to avoid scrambling doing it all at once or near the end of a member's service year by the end of the project. As new AmeriCorps members with the VISTA program start at your project, be prepared to orient them to the existing systems and processes that make your project successful, and explain the importance of documentation and maintaining work. This helps the project because your new members may have new or innovative ideas, skills, and interests that create and grow systems to strengthen the sustainability work. And if your VISTA project is nearing its end, make sure that you've been working with the community to take on the activities that really should be sustained. This should be exciting because your members have helped you build capacity, and it benefits project stakeholders because it motivates them to be part of the sustainable solution by taking on responsibility and ownership of the project. They can directly influence the project's outcome and future work. A few moments ago, I mentioned that sustainability is one of the 4 key principles of the VISTA program, though in reality, it's intertwined with all 4 principles as well as the VISTA program mission. And even though we've touched on it, what is sustainability? I'm going to turn to Beth so she can share her perspective from the great work that she and her project are doing.
Thanks, Eric. Having served as a VISTA member and now as a VISTA project manager, sustainability means to me that our service has the potential to leave a lasting legacy. I often think of sustainability as leaving a permanent fingerprint behind. This fingerprint can be seen in member services as well as the plans laid out by managers, creating an outstanding experience for the members. For the members, this could look like the work that they accomplished as well as their personal growth, both leaving a lasting impression. For the managers and sponsors, this could be plans in place and programs and environments created.
What a great analogy, Beth, and so relevant to how each fingerprint is unique, and so is the way each project approaches sustainability. And to provide a little bit more context, I'll mention that sustainability is the ability of a program or organization to continue to be responsive to the needs of the community and effectively engage community stakeholders. As Beth shared her analogy of fingerprints, it really gave rise to the idea that in the VISTA context, sustainability is connected to capacity building because you are working to put your VISTA fingerprints on items that can create, expand, or strengthen your organization's systems or processes, and to engage and empower community members and organizational partners. The capacity that you are building every day makes program sustainability possible. Although my hope is that you have a better understanding of sustainability in the VISTA world so far, Beth and I really want to hear your perspective on how do you or your project define sustainability. So for this activity, we're going to use a collaborative whiteboard called Mural. In a moment, we'll share our screen so that we can all see the responses coming in. But first, I'm going to give you some instructions, and you'll see a link in the chat that you can click on to access this whiteboard. So very briefly, if you're on a computer, once you click on the link, you'll be presented with a welcome window. You'll want to select the option that says View as a Visitor. Then on the next screen, you can enter your name or, once again, select View as a Visitor. And then once you're in the mural, you need to double click in the white space, not in the blue banner, but in the white space, to post your definition using a sticky note. Mural does provide quite a few options for adding your input, but we're recommending using the sticky note option because it's easy to use and read. But don't forget, you must double click to post it. And if you're using a smartphone, your instructions include a few additional steps, including clicking on the menu and selecting to view the desktop site in desktop mode. For this activity, if you're simply unable to post your comment on the Mural whiteboard, you can certainly use the chat to provide your comments. We do ask that you be a good collaborator on the mural by not moving or deleting someone else's post, especially as the screen will likely get quite busy with all of the great comments coming in. And you can certainly pan the screen or zoom out for more space. So again, the question we're asking is, how do you or your project define sustainability? We'll go ahead and share the mural on our screen now and play some light music while we see responses coming in.
Right through life, every day is a new beginning. Every day is a new day, and everything's coming your way. And you wanna make it last forever. And every day is a new day.
This is great. Okay. Well, I'm seeing quite a few responses coming in. As a reminder, double click in the white space to add your sticky note, and then you can type in your response. I'll comment on a couple because there are some great responses coming in. I saw building capacity. Someone mentioned that they define sustainability as building capacity and really helping the organization keep going all the important work that it's doing, which is absolutely the case. It's very, very important as part of all the work that your VISTA project is doing. I saw someone else said sustainability mentioned that, or sustainability, the way they define it, is really helping keep all of the work they're doing focused, structured, and in the right way so that someone else after the VISTA project ends can pick up the work after they're done. Beth, I'm going to turn to you to see what else you saw or if there's any other comments that stood out to you.
Yeah, that was a really fun activity. I love the little Post-it notes. I saw the word infinity out there, building systems. I saw a lot of action words, which I thought was really inspiring. Leaving a lasting memory, I think I saw someone write. There were some great things in there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for participating. And I know we have a lot to cover today. You're welcome to continue adding to the mural whiteboard. We'll take a look at it later, but these responses are great. So let's turn now to look a little bit about why sustainability matters. Beth, earlier you mentioned the relevance, the importance, and the benefits of sustainability in our work. It's a very different thing to recognize what's in it for me as you think about why sustainability matters. Hopefully it's obvious, but to help you reflect on this, I'll give you 4 reasons why project sustainability matters. First, VISTA projects typically only last 3 years. So VISTA sponsors need to immediately begin implementing steps in year 1 that they can carry out throughout each year of the project. These steps include, but are not limited to, documenting successes and achievements, noting challenges and obstacles, and listing opportunities for project stakeholders, including community members, to continue the work after the VISTA project is no longer available. Your work directly influences project continuation. Second, when you find a great member, you certainly want to retain them, right? Well, regularly focusing on sustainability helps members see the value and the importance of their work and how some of it may continue. It's really helping them see that they will have a lasting impact on the work through the transfer of their knowledge, products, and relationships. And from my experience as a member, and I'm sure from Beth's as well, that can really motivate them to want to continue serving with your project. Third, direction and guidance are key for members, leaders, and others to understand the project's goals and activities. In determining which tasks need to continue, since it's unlikely that every single task will be ongoing, sustainability matters because it helps guide members, especially those who are new, in understanding the plan along with critical tasks and who is involved. And fourth, here comes my favorite, though of course all four of these are critical. The community must be involved in the project because there is a much greater likelihood that the project work will continue if stakeholders and people being impacted are involved. Sustainability is not just about keeping certain tasks going, but it's also about keeping people involved and maintaining a sense of community around the work. When people feel included, needed, and involved, they may become champions of the work and really want to do their part to sustain it. So let's keep up our momentum and introduce some specific practices that you can put in place at the beginning of your project to encourage sustainability throughout and beyond the project's lifecycle. I'm delighted to have Beth with us to offer some real-world input before delving into tips for early planning. Beth, would you mind sharing an experience that you had working towards sustainability early on in your project?
Great, Eric, I would love to. Thank you. I began my role as a VISTA manager this past spring. Quickly, plans were put into place for supervising, developing, and supporting our VISTA members. A lot of thought went into creating the most rewarding experience the member could have at our organization. We also had ideas on how we would welcome them, the swag we would give them, the personal development we would encourage, and the great service the members would provide. We even held time in our calendars for the VMO dates. Well, we soon learned that the recruiting piece would need a little more attention. In our pivot, we built relationships with our regional AmeriCorps recruiter, local university career centers, job fairs, and believe it or not, even farmers markets. These relationships have built sustainability for our program as the foundation of great candidates has been laid. Along the way, we realized the importance of sustainability through the use of resources. So we created documents to support our members. One example is a Connecticut Food Share VISTA handbook derived from our employee handbook. We also created a 2-week, daily, very detailed on-site orientation training that we can adopt to all VISTA members, really regardless of the department they serve. The documents will be shared. The document being shared was for our member Holly, whom we'll hear more about later. These documents created sustainability in our organization because the framework was built and it will live on. Finally, this past June, when our first VISTA member started, the plans that we had poured into place all came together. We were certain the steps, although they were not always straight, were paving the way for our current and future members to build capacity in the community.
Thank you so much, Beth. I love the way that you focus on the connection between sustainability and action, because as we know, sustainability doesn't happen without action, and it's an ongoing activity that's required. I'm going to briefly pause here and ask you to complete a very quick poll. Since we've mentioned the 3-year project lifecycle and sustainability planning needs to start early on and continue throughout, the poll that you'll see on the screen is asking you, how long has your VISTA project been operating? There's no wrong answer here. Select the best answer to your knowledge. Certainly part of this work involves knowing where your project is in its life cycle and then figuring out what sustainability work has already occurred so that you can continue working to keep important tasks going. So we'll give you a couple of seconds to fill out this poll. Again, it's a quick question. You may be new in your role and maybe you're not quite sure of the answer, or maybe you've been in your project for a while, but how long has your VISTA project been operating? Maybe it hasn't been awarded, maybe it's brand new, maybe it's nearing its end, or maybe you don't know. I'll give you about 5 more seconds as I see some final responses coming in, and then we'll take a look at the results. Okay, so thank you for participating. We'll go ahead and close the poll. And in brief summary, it looks like 30% of folks are more than 36 months. So their VISTA project has been operating for quite a while. And then the next group is 23% less than 6 months. So we spread the gamut from very new projects to very seasoned projects. And remember that no matter where we are in our project's life cycle and time frame, it's always the right time to strategize for and implement sustainability practices. Beth, I'm going to circle back to a comment you mentioned just a few minutes ago. You noted that you had your project's members in mind from the beginning. And it sounds like your experience really underscores the point that it's essential that you work with your members, supervisors, and project staff to begin planning early in the life of the project and in the member's year of service for the effective transition of knowledge and work from one AmeriCorps member to another. To make the work more manageable and incremental, start planning for sustainability now.
Eric, I completely agree with that. As a VISTA sponsor and a manager, I can attest to the tasks we all are juggling day to day, week to week. And I think everyone agree it can often feel like a lot. For example, my site has a progress report due at the end of this month. The timing happens to coincide with the 3-month review for our member.
Needless to say, Beth, you have a lot going on in addition to your other work, as I'm sure many people on this webinar do. And that's so critically important as to why incorporating sustainability measures little by little is necessary. And your earlier comments and ideas offered some great perspective to this topic of maintaining project momentum through sustainability.
Well, I think the timing was perfect because the topic of sustainability was really buzzing around in my mind, because I could realize I could quickly create a template that would help our overlapping reports and reviews. If we hadn't taken time to think about this in advance, thanks to my handy dandy calendar, this sort of tight timeline and activities would have been much more challenging for me to identify a product that could really assist me and my fellow managers.
Absolutely. And I think many people are like me and they live by their calendar. And it's so critical as to why what you said in summary, the longer you wait to get things situated, the more work it'll be for you and your members, likely when you have the least time for it. No one wants to rush at the last minute because it leads to haphazard work and it's not as effective. But as Beth just shared, it really can be a practical exercise to make planning for and implementing sustainability measures a regular activity. And as a result, here are some things that sponsors can do to facilitate early sustainability planning. One strategy incorporates something that you are already doing, which is great. No need to reinvent the wheel. As you know, VISTA projects are required to submit certain reports to AmeriCorps. So why not use the information you're already collecting? Review it as it comes to you, and also review the complete reports or progress documents to better understand the status of the activities, along with who is performing the tasks and what more could be done to facilitate the transfer of knowledge, work, products, and professional relationships. VISTA reports will also give you insight into which project activities can involve community members, which is an important aspect of VISTA project sustainability. Another strategy involves something that I hope that you are already doing. As a project director, it's absolutely essential that you regularly check in with your member supervisors to offer them guidance and reminders. You may ask, well, how does this really help plan for sustainability? Well, let's give you an example. Perhaps you encourage the supervisors to have weekly meetings with their members to provide support, give feedback, assess progress, and document and update processes and progress. They should capture notes during those meetings, and you may want to suggest that a regular agenda item incorporates sustainability practices to make it clearer why the supervisor is collecting certain information and asking members to catalog all the information that they develop. That can help the members see that their work has a lasting impact after the year of service ends. When you take a minute to think about it, the more your supervisors know, the more you could know as project director, and the more you know really helps you look towards the end and beyond of VISTA project resources as we look at sustainability. A third strategy is conducting monthly reviews of your project's sustainability efforts. Yes, I did say monthly, because again, we're taking incremental steps to help your job be easier. You may consider quarterly, but that might be a little bit too infrequent when you have to compile 3 or 4 months of information together. So we recommend that you look at the project's goals and see how the project is proceeding in meeting them. Identify project activities to determine how community stakeholders are currently engaged or how they can be engaged, and also if the knowledge and work products of those activities are readily available in a user-friendly format to those who may join the project in the future. If you specifically don't observe such openings, work with your staff to put together such a plan. We'll take a moment to pause here because we want to hear from you regarding sustainability. I'm going to provide you a short scenario and ask you to respond to it in the chat. The scenario is, you are a new VISTA project director entering a project that is in its 3rd year and has a new VISTA member starting service. So now it's time for you to respond in the chat. As the project director in this scenario, identify some of the information or tools of this 3rd year project that you think would be helpful to pass along to the supervisor and the new VISTA member. And we'll give you a minute or two to think about the information and the tools that would be helpful to the supervisor and the new member. And we do ask that you be as specific as you can in your response. For example, if you think that a contact list is useful, maybe you also add what format it might be in or what information would be in the contact list to help plan towards sustainability. So we'll give you about a minute to respond.
It keeps getting better.
Great responses coming in. I'll read just a couple of them. Some of the specific responses that this 3rd year project might be helpful to pass along is a previous logbook identifying specific activities that have been done, who the point of contact is, and how all the work was progressed. I see previous reports and VISTA assignment descriptions, which of course document a member's activities and ideally also document how far the member has come so they know where to pick up afterwards. I love this one, flowcharts and a binder of templates, which could be a physical binder or an electronic binder, so that again, people can pick up where they left off and keep the project going. And then access to things like shared drives, reports, a lot of similar conversations around making sure people have access to files and important information, because when you pass something along, it's not only important that people know where it is and how to access it, but what they can do with it to keep it going. So thank you for participating. These are great thoughts and responses that truly underscore why planning for sustainability is necessary and a group effort. We've seen, based on your comments and what our experience shows, that sustainability is most successful when members proactively document procedures, create and update how-to guides, and also document relationships that are built in the community from the start. Sustainability is also successful when supervisors guide members in incorporating sustainability measures in all of their work, and as was mentioned in the chat, people know where to find and how to access information. And then lastly, sustainability is essential when project directors are aware of what is happening and are regularly in tune with how the project is progressing as it nears its end. This includes community members and others being prepared to continue necessary activities. This has been a great discussion so far, and we're going to continue discussing specific things that project staff, under your leadership as a project director, can do to facilitate sustainability. Beth, I know you've had a lot of experience and you're still working out a lot of sustainability things now. What kind of things can you share about this?
Well, before I jump into the specifics, I'd love to share a quote that stands out to me when I think about sustainability efforts. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And this is attributed to Benjamin Franklin. So this serves as a reminder and inspiration to me that the work we spend planting seeds and growing the work really do yield benefits. This frame of mind around planning resonates with us at Connecticut Food Share, as we found a fun way to have our members contribute to project sustainability. Our members are encouraged to leave a legacy book or scrapbook outlining how they've built capacity during their service. This could be made up of meeting notes, observations, maybe some cool, unique flyers they created or trainings they've put together. It is significant to have the members share their progress and end results with the members of the organization. Not only does this give the members' work lasting life, it also is a great tool to celebrate the members' contributions. I also think that it's important to outline for the members who will manage what part of their role, as well as how often they can expect to receive supervision and development time. I'm a huge believer in scheduling the time in the members, supervisors, and managers' calendar. If you don't plan for it, we all know it simply won't happen. As a manager, it's important to balance something you've planned, like a meeting or a call, with a simple agenda, as well as leaving some empty space to just listen. During this time, it's important to build sustainability while reinforcing the project goals, in addition to the members' personal developmental goals. I also think it's important to maintain some level of flexibility based on the path of the project, as well as the members' needs. As an effective manager, I think we can all take a cue from Epictetus, a Greek Stoic philosopher who lived nearly 2,000 years ago. He said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." It is in being attentive to the needs of our members and pivoting as needed that we can build the sustainability. This flexibility is useful in sustainability, not only with the members, but also with the project activities. Initial thoughts you may have had about an activity or maybe even the VAD that must continue a certain way, if at all, can change. Eric mentioned this earlier with the point that not every aspect of your project needs to be or should be sustained. Eric, what do you think about digging into that a little bit more?
Absolutely, Beth. We can assess sustainability by revisiting a framework of questions that both VISTA members and sponsor staff can use. Determine and prioritize the project activities that are important and continue. Document processes for those activities that do need to continue, including best practices, knowledge gained, or lessons learned. This documentation should also note the resource location, account information if available, and tips for editing and keeping it sustained. Consider and describe what actions or approaches to adopt if circumstances around the continuing activities change. Identify actions that others, such as community members or volunteers, can take to get involved with the activity. Identify what happens if the member or person primarily leading the activity leaves, whether suddenly or as expected. With all of this knowledge, you know more about incorporating sustainability practices at the start of and throughout your project, which includes evaluating those practices with assessment questions. So now we'll talk about how to plan for work to continue during your members' exit from service after the year is over. As Beth and I mentioned earlier, it is never too early to remind people about sustainability and to remind VISTA members of the VISTA project's 3-year cycle. Especially project staff and all stakeholders, including community members, really need to know that the typical VISTA project only exists for 3 years, and they need to plan for that work with the individual members because they only serve for 1 year. As a result, Project staff must work with members and those in the community early on so that they can assist in the development and continuation of key tasks during the changeover from one member to another at the project's conclusion. Sustainability requires strategizing and considering how project work will transition. Project directors and supervisors should really think about a succession plan for each member's activities from year to year, as well as for the overall VISTA project's work. A transition place should be in place when one member is handing off work to another member, as well as when member project activities must be taken up by the community when the project concludes. Consider, for example, if you have the ability to bring on another AmeriCorps member after the current one leaves, what tasks, processes, and information are needed to transition to the new member? Or if your project is nearing its end, or you are not able to recruit more members, how will you transition important work and programs to community members and staff?
That last question really resonates with me, Eric. We at Connecticut Food Share recently had an oath party for the VISTA member I mentioned earlier, Holly. The photo displayed is of Holly taking the federal oath of service on her VISTA member orientation day. Now with Holly on board, one possibility of planning early is for a project director to consider in year one what capacity they need to sustain project work, and if the organization does or could possibly have the means to hire a VISTA member such as Holly on as a staff member once their year of service ends. This practice connects to planning for sustainability and keeping important work going, as the member could transition into a staff role while continuing to document the knowledge, products, and relationships. I'd also like to add that supporting our member on her VMO date through inviting other staff to attend the oath party really let our member know we already valued her and her commitment to serve.
I love that, Beth, especially that you and your project really celebrated Holly's starting service, which, as you noted, shows that she and her commitment are valued, and that they can also engage the member, in this case Holly, and inspire them in their activities that contribute to the larger project goal and documenting their progress along the way. Because even as we celebrate the start of any member service, we should be mindful of transition plans, particularly as projects, its activities, its staff, and volunteers can get more complex over time. And this is why it is so essential that you know where you are in the life cycle of your VISTA project and make sure to keep all stakeholders involved and updated on progress and sustainability plans. This approach also allows you to incrementally engage and incorporate the community into the project instead of inundating them all at once when the project concludes.
That activity alert. So right now we'd like to take a minute to hear from you all. With Eric's last point about keeping stakeholders updated on projects' progress and sustainability plans still ringing in our ears, we'd like to know how you share progress and updates with your stakeholders and how frequently. So please take a minute to think about the mode and frequency of the project updates and share your response in the chat. We'll take about 1 minute to complete this.
Ready, set, let's go. Turn it on, turn it up. Are you ready to find your way? 'Cause every day is a new day, and everything's going your way. And you wanna make it last forever. We'll keep it together, 'cause it keeps getting better. Feel the sun upon your shoulders. Find the strength to make you bolder. Yeah. Let each moment
To see some great answers coming in, monthly newsletters, submitting reports, having meetings. I've seen social media a few times, monthly site meetings, scheduled meeting times, email blasts and newsletters again. That's a current theme that we're seeing. Just some really great answers in here. Newsletters, I see newsletters mentioned quite a few times. These are fantastic. These answers are great. They show the breadth of the ways to engage our stakeholders, and that connecting with stakeholders is constantly happening across our projects, and that's exciting.
I agree. Those comments that are still coming in are fantastic. And I can tell it's part of a great discussion that we've been having on what sustainability is and why it's relevant and so beneficial to VISTA projects, including some of the tips and strategies that you shared on how to start implementing sustainability practices as early into your project lifecycle as possible. We specifically mentioned planning for transferring knowledge or information, products or tools, and organizational relationships. So now Beth and I will round out our discussion on this specific point. Beth, do you have any specific suggestions on how sponsors can encourage supervisors and members during their service year to transfer the knowledge that members build?
Absolutely. As a VISTA sponsor and a former member, I recognize that even though members only serve for 1 year, they soak up a ton of information about their VISTA project and about the community. They find ideas and information from community partners, knowledge of systems and how they work, and facts and data about the community, as well as often lived experience. Beyond that, members develop their own insight and perspective. This intangible knowledge may be subjective or objective, and it is important to preserve so that it can be transferred, living on, and ultimately build capacity well past the member's service term is over. One way to encourage this transfer of knowledge is to remind members of the importance of writing down relevant information along with their thoughts and recommendations across their service year. Whether they acquire this knowledge on their own or in a training, or they learn it from connecting with others, it's likely important knowledge that will help the next AmeriCorps member and the community to continue this critical work aimed at eliminating poverty. Some members may capture their knowledge in whatever format is easier for them, while others may ask for you to provide them with a template. It's great to remind members to add time into their calendar to record this information and the progress of their VAD. As a supervisor, it's vital that you review what they document so you can understand it. Just remember, if you don't know what they're telling you, others probably won't understand it either.
That is a great point, Beth. Knowledge can be passed on in so many ways, such as a spreadsheet, electronic directory, slideshow, video, web page, etc. Think about who your end users might be and work with them to identify formats that will be accessible and useful to them.
So getting into that just a little more in the nitty-gritty, I'd love to share some examples of tools members can use to transfer their knowledge, Eric. One more good option is an asset map, as asset maps may be done in many forms to catalog and represent the assets and capacity the members have identified in your community. Another sustainability product from members are reports with the results of any progress they did, big or small. These might be things like researching best practices, assessing community needs, analyzing stakeholders, and engaging with the community, whether through individual meetings or a group process. The approach doesn't have to be written. Members can give presentations to organizational leaders, staff, volunteers, partner organizations, or to community groups or gatherings. Recently, we had our member participate in a VISTA recruiting panel, and this was a great opportunity for the member, as well as for the participants. A last tip is to remember to include those who contribute to the knowledge members gained and are passing on. They could see what was learned and what the project will be doing with it down the road.
I'm so glad you added additional examples, Beth, including the asset map, which I think is an undervalued resource. People need to use it a lot more. But anyways, there's so many resources members can develop to pass along the knowledge that they develop during their service. And of course, while members are developing resources and putting them in specific formats, we know that that may change from year to year. but the practice of encouraging them to create such a resource in an accessible and usable format will not. But let's continue with discussing how sponsors can work with supervisors and members to ensure the transfer of project, products, or tools.
That sounds great.
I'll briefly start by explaining what products mean in the VISTA world. Sometimes when we refer to a product, we're talking about a final goal. Sometimes members create a product in order to help them create another product. This is why products can be interim products or final products. For example, maybe your member's goal is to create a final product of resources and contacts for people in the community to really get the help they need. In that case, an interim product or a means to an end may be a written guide on how to structure conversations with community partners. The member uses that interim product to get information for the final project. As your VISTA work continues, products need periodic review, evaluation, and updating to make sure resources are still relevant and usable.
To reiterate, Eric, by products, we mean what members have created, such as tools, templates, resources, and training materials that someone else will have to use or engage with to carry forward project activities. Of course, we want these products to be transferred as part of sustainability. And just as with knowledge, they could take various forms. Options range from a presence on social media to instruction manuals and how-to documents, to other hard copies and electronic resources. Products do not have to be fancy. A simple form or even an email template that a community member uses to request assistance is a good example of something basic but tremendously helpful. Something a little more complex may be the electronic asset map that Eric echoed, made available to the public.
So Beth, is the major share of effort going into encouraging the creation of work products by members across their service?
I'd probably only say half, Eric. Creating a product is just part of the sustainability effort because it's just as important for members to ensure their work products are created and stored in a way that will be accessible long after the member is gone. That may mean a physical binder or more likely electronic files. A physical binder would house things like resources, contact information, flyers. An electronic version may include a directory of links to the same sort of resources, along with any necessary account credentials. In both cases, these items should be centrally located for project staff's ease and consistent access. As a VISTA manager, I encourage the creation of a legacy binder or scrapbook to be completed by the end of the service term. This is a great keepsake for the member as well as the organization they serve. A last tip is to ensure that the content is readable. Someone's handwritten note on a report or a dramatic font for a how-to document may be difficult for some to decipher. In short, make and store your products so that they can be accessed to the future end user.
That's a great reminder, Beth, that it's not just a product or tool, but making sure it's accessible. What do you think is a good way to narrow down the type of form a product takes or a way to make it accessible to more users?
I'd suggest starting with the end user in mind, or even better, involving the member in the process of the product's development to ensure the item is set up in such a way that someone else can use it. Really, whatever the form, have a plan in place to not only transfer these items, but also have written and visual instructions on how to access, use, and of course, update them. Whether in hand or in line, instructions on how to edit the project resources should be included. These instructions should, of course, include passwords, important file links, instructions, possibly screenshots, maybe even a recorded tutorial that shows how to navigate the database or system. If there's not already a shared drive in use, and I think we saw these recommendations in the chat, you can explore free resources online that make sense for your organization like Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, or SharePoint. Just make sure that any electronic resources are not tied to an account that will disappear after the member's service is over.
This is all great information, Beth. And I know we have a lot to discuss. What do you say we move on to discussing how sponsors can facilitate the transfer of relationships?
Great, let's go.
Relationships are invaluable to all of us, whether in our personal or professional lives. We know that many nonprofits and VISTA sponsoring organizations thrive on relationships with community partners, volunteers, staff, and so many more. These relationships certainly are not tangible in terms of being able to touch or hold them, but they are something you can experience.
Absolutely. Relationships, especially with AmeriCorps members who are new to the community, are not created overnight. And as we all know, they take time to build those strong bonds and trust. Since relationships are intangible, it is difficult to document them, but it is not impossible. Members should take notes from conversations with community partners, including capturing the contact information and even specific things to know when working with a specific person. That could help another AmeriCorps member. It might be simple things like noting this person likes information in the form of stories, or that person wants you to be brief and direct and to the point, or this individual likes to have an outline of anticipated conversation before you meet. This information is important for the sponsor organization, but also a valuable tool for the member's professional development.
And such details would be so helpful to whomever is picking up that member's work. Are there any other strategies that you can think of for managing the transfer of a member's organizational relationships, especially when they are nearing at the end of their service?
Yes, I can actually think of two. First, I would suggest each member create and keep a communication log of contacts that include the name, role, and how to communicate with the individual. And second, I would say is emailing community partners, letting them know when the member will be finishing their service and what office member will be the next point of contact following the end of the member's service.
That is a really good approach to building bridges from one member to the next.
I agree, and it's such an important piece, Eric. When your member creates and cultivates relationships over their service term, the relationship needs to reside within the sponsor organization. Since relationships are commonly between people, a valued suggestion would be to coordinate a meeting between staff or community members and the AmeriCorps member to ease the transfer of this relationship. Tell your members that in the last few months of service, they should remind their contacts that the VISTA position is only for 1 year and that they will be bringing someone into the meeting to keep the relationship going. This is another opportunity also to showcase the interconnectedness of all parties involved.
Thank you so much for helping me break this down, Beth, as we help sponsors facilitate the transfer of knowledge, products, and relationships. We're going to give a quick summary of some best practices so that we can wrap up today's webinar. So starting with sustainability practice number 1, first, make sure you start and chart your sustainment efforts now. We mentioned this earlier, but the longer that you wait to get things situated, the more work it will be for you and your members in a condensed period of time when you probably don't have time to get it all done. So make this a regular part of your work process planning towards sustainability. Second, there's no need to sprint. Sustainability is a long distance journey, and because it takes time, be prepared for it to be a regular activity. One example is, even after you get to where you want your VISTA project to be, you still have work to do to maintain documentation, update information, and adjust resources accordingly. Third, try not to overcomplicate your approach to sustainability. Certainly, there are aspects that might be complex, but your plan should be logical, simple, and easy for someone to follow. You want to avoid a new member or community member having to take the time to decipher process steps or even finding contact information for the previous task lead to ask for clarification. So keep it simple. Fourth, assist your staff and members with the project's sustainability efforts. Answer their questions, ask them what they're doing to keep certain tasks going, and direct them to information such as online resources, trainings, and other staff that can help them. Fifth, review and update your sustainability plan. On a regular basis, make sure you monitor, evaluate, and improve the plan, making minor tweaks or significant adjustments if necessary. And this is critical if a member leaves their position early or if you have a staff vacancy. Even simple things like advancements in technology and new systems adopted by your sponsoring organization can be a reason to adjust your sustainability measures to make sure that procedures are accurate. You also want to evaluate it and make sure it still encompasses the key elements of the project that you want sustained and that they are still in alignment with your project goals. Last on our list, but certainly not least, sustainability best practice number 6, focus on member activities, not their personalities. Simply put, when thinking about looking for a new member to take over the work, focus not on their personalities, but on the functions of the activities, and make sure you look for someone who can help continue your sustainability approach. I'll turn it to Beth to give us a summary of today's information.
Our session today has outlined so much great content about VISTA project sustainability and how you can start your sustainability efforts right now. Eric just shared 6 best practices to apply throughout your project life cycle, and I would like to just conclude with a few summarizing points. The first echoes a best practice we just heard and have heard several times during our time together. Plan your project sustainability approach early and revisit the plan often to review and offer guidance to project staff and members with their efforts. Second, take care and time to orientate community members and staff to the 3-year nature of the VISTA project early on. Number 3, as your project launches and continues, document its successes and achievements, challenges and obstacles and opportunities for other project staff and the community to continue the great work after the VISTA project is no longer available. And lastly, ensure there are end-user friendly systems or artifacts in place to help transfer knowledge, products, and relationships from project year to project year.
Thank you, Beth, for this recap. Before we finish the presentation, we're asking you to complete this poll to check in to see how you followed on today's conversation. Which of the following member actions is more likely to support the sustainability of project knowledge? You should see the poll appear in just a second. We'll ask you to take a minute to select your answer. Again, which of the following member actions is more likely to support the sustainability of project knowledge? Is it A, jotting notes in a pocket notebook through their service year? B, sending an email near the end of their service with key recommendations? C, sharing updates in recorded quarterly stakeholder meetings? D, having an hour-long debrief video call with an incoming member? We'll give you a few seconds now. Okay, we will close the poll and take a look at the answer. The answer is C, sharing updates quarterly in recorded stakeholder meetings. This option has a greater frequency than option B because sending an email at a member's end of service and will be more likely accessible than option A. So if you got the answer correct, congratulations and thank you. Last but not least, we want to very briefly highlight our recommendations for further study. You'll see the links posted in the chat for these 2 resources. One's from the Washington University in St. Louis, and one is from the ACB Consulting Services. Both are very, very useful articles as it relates to sustainability and planning for future project activities. So please take a minute to check those out. We'll also ask you before you jump off to complete an evaluation of today's session. So you'll see another link posted in the chat for an evaluation of how today's session went. Thank you very much in advance for your feedback for the survey. And thank you for joining us for today's session. We appreciate your attention. We're glad you were able to join us. We'll see you next month on Tuesday, November 14th 2 p.m. Eastern for intermediary project development. Have a wonderful day.